Well, I wanted to welcome everyone for joining us today with Tony Award winner Anthony Crivello. I'm the Associate Director of the Broadway Mentors Program, and we are just thrilled to have you today. And if anyone is interested, Tony also teaches one-on-one classes through our program, the Broadway Mentors Program, and you can sign up to study with him on our website. I'll let you take it away, Tony.
Please do sign up. You can find information at www.broadwaymentorsprogram.com. I have open slots right now. And for me, sometimes it's a little bit difficult because I continue to work, etc. And but regardless, even of my work situation, I would always continue to work with my students. So greetings to all of you. And those of you on the East Coast, especially in the Northeast, I know we've been dealing with, in addition to the COVID situation, we've been dealing with now some tornadoes, hurricanes, high winds, all of that. It's a lot of things that potentially can work on our psyche, work on our mind, become a distraction. But one of the key things that we try and do, specifically with the Broadway Mentors Program as well, is to utilize this time and take advantage of it. And there is ways of taking advantage of it, like doing this seminar today online. And the wonderful thing is that the technology has progressed to the point that we can reach out as before. Deanna was coming to us from Vancouver. That's hi from my dog, who is also with us here on the road, Daisy. Shh, quiet Daisy. She's a student too. Very good. Diaphragmatic barking, you hear it? And so we're going to have fun today as well. And we want to take advantage, like I said, and be, even in these times, we want to continue to be aware of exactly what we are feeling. That's a very important point. Put that in the back of your mind, and I'm going to get into that a little bit later. But I want to start, and there is a chat panel that is on your Zoom link, and there is also a Q&A panel. And so I want to pose a question to all of you. And that question is this. Before you go into a classroom, before you go into an audition, even if you're those of you who study with Miss Joy or teachers in the program as well, many of the teachers, the wonderful teachers with the Broadway Mentors Program, before you go into those classroom settings, before you have the chat begins or the classroom begins, I want to ask you a question. And that question is this: what kills your confidence? What kills your confidence? Sometimes before we go into an audition, we're sitting there and we're waiting for the audition to begin. And before that starts, we have these little voices in our heads. And so I want you to answer that question in the chat section of the Q&A. What kills your confidence? What do you think kills your confidence? Now, I have a myriad of ideas, and we'll discuss and sort of break them down as to what that is. Answer again in the chat or in the Q&A. Could be a word, could be two words, could be a sentence. Okay. Jenna put down, second guessing my preparedness, or something I suddenly thought I might have done differently. Now, that particular equation happens before the audition, and it happens after the audition. We constantly will sit there and say, we come out of the audition room and we say to ourselves, oh, how many of you have done this? I wish I had done this. I wish I had done that. We go over it in our head. Okay. Deanna said, a negative energy in the room when I enter. This is a very key point, that we walk into the room and we feel, oh, it's the end of the day, especially, and the people who are on the panel on the other side of the table, maybe they're tired. We read their faces. And we say to ourselves, oh my God, I've lost the audition before it began. Okay, and that could be a situation you walk in with your teacher. Maybe your teacher is you think is having a bad day, and oh my gosh, I'm going to disappoint her. Okay, I compare another one from Jenna. From Robin. It is. I compare myself to others. This happens sometimes in an audition situation. We're sitting outside of the audition. Sometimes we can hear people in the room. And we think we evaluate their performance based on what we are hearing, or we evaluate what is going on because we watch people coming in and out of the audition room And most of them are coming out in 5 minutes, and then one person is in there for 10 minutes or 15 minutes, and we go, oh, and I have to follow that person. Okay? I'm intimidated by, this is from Jason, I'm intimidated by other people auditioning. I'm sitting in the audition room, and I'm looking at them, I'm looking at the way they're dressed, I'm comparing myself, and I'm making a comparison, and I'm talking to myself and saying, oh my God, he's taller than me, he's got a better build than me, he's funnier than me, or whatever it is. Alexis said, I'm not as good as the people auditioning, or that I am not what the directors are looking for. And I have these preconceived notions in my head. Ellie said, I realized that I forgot to do something in the audition afterward, and I had practiced it for a long time. And when I'm in there in the pressure of the room, I forget. I go, oh, I planned that out. I was going to do that. And it didn't happen the way I want. This is from Ari, said, I'm feeling like I'm not good enough. Even before I get into the room, I'm not good enough. Jolly said, I fear that I might do something wrong before I get into the room. Now, again, this is not only for auditions. This also applies to even taking class. Okay? Adriana says, honestly, I know this isn't good, but when I don't feel as attractive as the other actresses, this is another big key one. And I'm glad you said that, Adriana. Those are all points. Now, let's peel back the onion, and let's go to getting to the core of a few things that are very, very important, be it whether it is before an audition or specifically before a class, okay? And here's another question that I ask you based on your answers, and that is this. Why is it important to continue our studies? Why is it important to continue our studies? And why is it important to try and stay on track week in and week out with our studies? Why do you think? Because it's directly related to all of these answers. And let me get into it as you're possibly putting down some questions and answers here. It's important because those situations, and here's from Ari, it's because in class, we can feel more confident. Yes, exactly. When we're in the classroom is actually, besides a learning incubator, besides it being the classroom, besides it being safe, a safe zone, it is also a place where we are simulating what it is like in that experience in the classroom to also audition. We have to prepare. We have to be ready. We have to have, we make some choices about what we're going to be doing in the particular audition. And we do that in the classroom, and we explore. Here's the important factor about all of that. In the classroom as well, we have a certain amount of freedom as we're working, because we have a confidence working with Joy or any of the other instructors with the Broadway Mentors program. We feel that we've built a relationship with them, and so that we're a little bit more at ease. When we step into an audition situation, or sometimes even prior to going into class, we might get a little bit nervous. And what we do is we try to stomp down that nervousness. And because I don't want them to think that I'm not confident, I don't want them to think that I'm not the person that they should hire. And we try to squash that. That's the wrong thing to do. The right thing to do, and now this goes into the situation, what I was talking before about, we're dealing with the circumstances right now of like tornadoes and COVID and all of that. Those directly affect our feelings. And we have a direct correlation and connection to what is happening. We want to use that. We want to assess exactly where we are at the moment and take that into the room. Now, you say, why would I want to take nerves into the room? Here's why. Because when we assess it, it is by assessing it and acknowledging it, it gives us a certain freedom. And it shows that we are coming from exactly where we are, which is a place of reality. Now, working in the classroom, we work on our vocal technique. We work on center pitch. We work on, and here's another one that, as you know, those of you who have studied with me before, I'm constantly talking about relaxation and why relaxation is so imperative. And And if you've studied with me or taken some of the master classes that I've taught, I do a really brief relaxation exercise where we sit down, we literally go from head to toe, usually toe to head. We put our arms out, we try and relax. We use a sound, an extended sound, and then an explosive sound to release energy and to relax the body and to get us more in touch with exactly where we are. Once we start from that place of reality, we can bring that place of reality into the audition. Now, sometimes you'll say, oh, like there was the comments that were made, I made a choice and I forgot it, or I didn't do anything, or I look back on it and I should have done, I could have done, I would have done. We have to let go of all of that. And especially after an audition, yes, we give ourselves permission after an audition to say, gee, I could have made choice A, B, C, and I didn't do it. We think about that, we evaluate that, we learn from that, and we let it go. We have to let it go. Once we learn from it, we let it go. And we don't dwell on that past audition. We move forward. We learn from that and move forward. Here's the other thing about being in the room and about starting from a place of reality and starting from a place of relaxation. We do prepare. We make some choices. We do things. We walk into a room and we have to, what you must do in your rehearsal process, and this is where you have to even do it, you can do it in the classroom. When we walk into a room, and I know this has happened to many of you, you walk into a room for an audition or a rehearsal room, let's say a rehearsal room you've never been into before, and you see a door outside. You walk inside, and when you walk inside, sometimes it's big, sometimes it's small. Sometimes there's a panel of people in front and the room is oblong. Sometimes it's long and they're all the way at the end of the room. And the piano is sort of halfway in the middle, but there's a lot of room behind me. We must, in our preparation and in our rehearsal, we have to prepare for the unexpected. We have to also prepare for the worst case scenario. So that in our heads, let's say we walk in there and it's the end of the day and we have scowled faces, or we have a preconceived notion of what they're thinking. We really don't know in reality what they're thinking. And it could be the end of the day. So we can also set an objective to make them smile. And when you go into a rehearsal situation or an audition situation as well, I tell you honestly, 9 times out of 10, the casting director, I mean, I should say really it is actually 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10 times, they want you to make them smile. They want you to please them. And sometimes they won't even show it. They play professional. They don't show you exactly what they're thinking. Because in their minds, they're also thinking about, boy, this person has come in here. I had them in mind for this is what can happen. I had them in mind for this role. But you know what? I think that they could do this other role. I cannot tell you how many times that has happened to me. I've gone in for one role. It happened to me with Evita, a production that Miss Joy and I were both in. I came in, I was originally called in for the character of Magaldi. I came in and sang for the casting director, the music director, John David Wilder, casting director, Paul Gemignani, the music director, Ruth Mitchell, the associate director to Hal Prince. I was called in for Magaldi, finished it. At the end of the Magaldi section, they said, terrific. Okay, we're going to call you back. I said, great. They said, but when we call you back, we're going to call you back for Che. Do you know that material at all? I said, just a little bit. They said, start working on it. So that's what can also happen in a room. And so we have to also, by doing that, we have to get out of our own way. We have to get out of that judgment. I talk about at times that little voice that's on the top of your shoulder. Now, and will speak to you, and you're making judgment calls while you're auditioning. Here is the objective when we go into an audition or we go into classroom, and we can practice this in our lessons in the classroom. We want to go in there and we want to give ourselves, with relaxation, the freedom to fall on our face, the freedom to make a mistake. There are no mistakes. You've heard me in classroom say this over and over again. The great Russian director and teacher, Konstantin Stanislavski, said, there is no such thing as an accident on stage, only the potential for divine inspiration. And every time I say that, I say, allow me to repeat that again. There is no such thing as an accident on stage, only the potential for divine inspiration. And we have to go into an audition in the same way. It's great to have planned out ideas of what we're going to do. But if we miss something in an audition, it doesn't matter. What if we are inside, and I talk about this as well, when we're inside the audition, when we are using diaphragmatic breathing, when we are using proper technique, things that we work on in the classroom, when we are using relaxation, I always say it's akin to surfing. We want to get on the surfboard, the music begins, that's the beginning of the wave. And even prior to that, it's not, oh, the audition begins when the music begins. The audition begins when you're in the room outside of the auditioning hall, or your class actually begins, your studies begin when they began when you were at home and you were practicing your material. Why is it important to have continued study? Because each time we have that continued study, each time that we have a class, it's an opportunity for us to explore over and over and over again what it will be like to prepare, what it will be like to perform, what it will be like to go into an audition scenario. And we can go into the room that we are the rehearsal room, the practice room where we take our lessons, and sometimes face forward, sometimes face sideways, sometimes turn your back and face a different direction, face into a corner as well. Because just like going into an audition, we don't know what we're going to be facing. And it is a great way to I said before, you prepare for the unexpected. You prepare for the worst case scenario, and you practice it that way. And you think about that way. Now, even if I'm at home and I'm in my room, I can go and I can change around in the room, or I can literally walk through my house, or go into the basement of my house, or go into my brother or sister's room, or go into a different scenario, or even step outside and sing and prepare and do my material. That each one of those different environments are going to give you a different set of what are called given circumstances, hard given circumstances. And they will throw you in a different way. And a bird, if you're outside, a bird flies by, or you hear a honk of a car, which in New York City, how many times you're in a rehearsal hall and you hear fire engines going off? How many times does that happen? Or even at your home. So that if you are relaxed and something happened in the room that you hear, and you actually reacted to that fire, that fire engine going off, or that bird tweeting, that's what actually happens in working in a scene. It makes, and again, coming from a place of reality, it makes your work come to life. It makes that work be absolutely connected to you through the interior of what you are feeling, what is truly happening. And instead of saying, I planned it this way, I had planned these emotions, if I'm in that room and I'm relaxed and I'm open to the potential for divine inspiration, that accident, or whatever the room is, or the people across the way that you think that you're being judged, or somebody else, this is the other thing, when I'm in the hallway waiting to go in for an audition, instead of concentrating on all of them, or making a judgment call that I don't look right, I don't feel right, I'm not good enough. If I'm working on my relaxation, I'm working on those things that I need to work on. Or how about this one even? I got up this morning, I was not in the best of voice. And so I made a judgment call, oh my gosh, I'm not singing well, this is not gonna go well. I wanna tell you a little side story, addendum story about a scenario like that. The wonderful, talented, brilliant actress, Tony Award winner, who is also on our roster, Randy Graff. Randy Graff went in to audition for Les Miserables. Before she went to audition for Les Miserables, she had to beg to get an audition because she knew the cast director. She had to beg to get into the audition room. And they finally agreed to see her. She goes in for the audition, and her voice is all over the place. And the notes, she's thinking, oh my God, they're a little bit high. And she was emotionally connected. But she was thinking, boy, this is not, there's a part of it that's not going well, but I'm still trying to stay in the moment, and I'm still trying to move forward with this. She finished her audition, and she almost partially apologized to the directors, Trevor Nunn and John Kerry. And they said, no, what you were doing emotionally was wonderful and connected. We're going to call you back. They called her back, and she was in that place again, and she thought, but this time she said, I'm just going to let it go. She was in a little bit better voice that day. Her placement was right. She was in center pit. She auditioned. She did it again. She was emotionally connected, and she got the role. So by making that judgment call on ourselves, by saying to ourselves that, oh my gosh, I'm not going to get it, I'm going to have that little negative voice in my head, we're only derailing ourselves. If we allow ourselves to be in a place where we can literally, spontaneously, divine inspiration can happen, that we are coming from a place of reality when we're working. The emotional content can translate across the table. And the people who are there, those panelists that are there, you might change their minds. I'll give you another one that happened to me. I went in, and this was for Into the Woods at the Hollywood Bowl. I went in and for the audition, and they had called me in just for a general audition, and not knowing it was just a general to be seen. And I left, and I had a good audition, but I had no idea. I thought, well, at least I got seen by the wonderful Broadway director, Bobby Longbottom. And a day later, or no, it's 2 days later, I got a phone call. And it was from my agent. They said, you went into the room, and they got this inspired idea, and they want to know if you'd be interested in coming back. I'm sorry, it was a day later. It was the morning after the audition. They said, can you prepare the song No More, which is sung by the Mysterious Man? I didn't know the song. I said, yes, I'll do the best I can. Please tell them I don't know the material, and would it be okay? I might have the music in hand. I began working on it, and I had 5 hours, and I worked over and over and over again. Me knowing, now I sort of know what the room is going to be like. I sort of know who's in there. I know that they've called me back, so they must be interested in it. Let me just stay emotionally connected. Well, because of the fact I didn't have much time to prepare, and because I'm on the surfboard trying to stay in the middle of the wave and doing the best I can, but the surfboard, the theatrical surfboard is not steady because I'm connected to the words. And by that point, I probably had sung the song maybe 50 times, that section. But it was such a short period of time. Went in, and I was nervous because I didn't have much time to prepare. But I used those nerves, and I gave them to the character. And I used that feeling of instead of going, oh my God, this is a disaster. I mean, what's going to happen? I'm thinking that in the what's going to happen. And I bring that to the words, and I use that in the words. And when I'm singing, running away, let's do it, free from the ties that bind, no more despair or burdens to bear, out there in the yonder. You can utilize those nerves in that same way. And by coming from the place where I was, the place of reality, by getting out of my way and not thinking about, oh, how do I look? Or what about the other person that's singing? And are they better than me? By staying centered in what my task was, the task at hand. It helped me to move me forward. And I got the role. It is so these little things that happen sometimes. You hear me talking about constantly, I'll say the actor as athlete, the actor as athlete. Why do I say that? Well, because we as actors, we as live performance artists, we are constantly put into a position where we have to be on top of our game. And that it is literally this going into classroom, doing the work that we're doing this preparedness, taking care of ourselves, taking care of our voices, taking care of our bodies, all of those things. It is not unlike an athlete who is in training. And we train weekly. But the idea is not to run a sprint. The idea is to run and prepare for the marathon. Let me make that very clear. We need to learn and to continue to grow with an idea that we are going to have a career if we so choose, or even as an amateur, that I choose and I'm going to do community theater because I love singing, I love performing, I love the arts, but I want to have opportunities to do different roles, myriad of roles, and I'm also working to stretch my abilities, to stretch those things that I can do. Now, vocally, singing, preparing, working my technique, here's the other thing that happens. Over the course of time, as we grow, as we age, like fine wine, they say, our body changes, our physicality changes, we can continue to sing, we can continue to perform, but the quality of our voice, the quality of what we do, it actually sort of morphs a little bit. And so sometimes, especially with older performers, perhaps we can't quite hit a high note, but that doesn't mean that you can't sing. Same thing with younger performers when you first start out. I can't quite hit that note, but if I continue to work on it and I continue to do my vocal exercises, I continue to do my scales, I'm stretching, I'm working those muscles, I'm working diaphragmatically, I'm working for placement, all of those things. And we can stretch, again, the width, the length, the breadth of how many notes we can sing on the bottom side and on the top side as well. We're constantly working on it. Let me go back to actor as athlete. Same thing. If the actor is the athlete works to run the race faster, to get stronger, to get more flexible so that he doesn't injure his muscles, he or she doesn't injure their muscles. It's the same thing for performers. We're constantly working at our craft. And we want to put those circumstances in front of us. Again, you're thinking about worst case scenario. Now, in that comparison that I'm doing between actor and athlete, there was an article that was published that talked about young athletes and what are the confidence killers for young athletes, younger students. And I want to read you what are the top 10 things that kill confidence in young athletes. Number 1, expecting too much of themselves. Do we as performers do the exact same things? Absolutely. We think about, that was in the notes when I asked the question at the very beginning of this session today. We think about that I've got this X goal that I have to achieve. And I'm so concentrated on that goal that the steps that lead to it they become missing, or they become blurry. And instead of going into the room saying to myself, I'm waiting for the accident that might happen, the divine inspiration that might happen. By concentrating on being goal oriented, we lose the connection to the moment to moment. Let me go to another one. Having perfectionist traits. I know this one very well. Some of us also, we work and work and work. We're what they call type A or AAA personalities. We want to be absolutely perfect. But that desire for perfection in the room can get in our way. That what happens is, I didn't have that beat. I didn't hit it perfectly. I didn't, even for the dancer, I was concentrating. I wanted to do a triple jeté, a triple spin. I only got 2, and we judge ourselves. It's a failure now. No, it's not. We have to stay in the moment and continue to move forward. And by literally, by what we believe in that moment, in the reality, this is another one, and belief in ourselves with confidence, those kinds of things don't matter, because it could possibly, like I said, lead us to divine inspiration. Feeling self-doubt. This was all over the place when I asked the question to begin with, that we make a judgment call on ourselves, and what we do is the negative voices will impede anything we do. It could actually impede our learning. And we have to, again, it is, if we are rehearsing, goes back, and if, again, goes to another point that I was making before, why continued study is so important. Because it's working on the flexibility. I use the analogy all the time. If a concert violinist was playing just one number and he played it over and over and over again, and he plays it wonderfully, or she plays it wonderfully, but doesn't practice their scales, they will play that one number wonderfully, but when you ask them to do something else, they will have a difficult time. Now, they can work on that other thing that they're working on, another piece of material, as well as we do in classroom. We're working on a myriad of songs and material. We're working on dramatic pieces. We're working on comedy at the same time. We're working on all of those different things. We want to be able to do that in the classroom, because not only is it stretching ourselves, but that also, each time we do those kinds of things, it eliminates that self-doubt. We see ourselves growing and learning. And this is another thing within the Broadway Mentors program. You don't have to study with just one teacher. Sometimes it would be a good idea to study with different teachers or take other seminars, because from each teacher you will learn. And with each learning experience, you will also eliminate some of that self-doubt and stretch your abilities. Here's another one that young athletes have. Failure to let go of negative feedback. This is a big one. Young students especially will go, if they hear something, hear a correction, or they get a note about placement, about choices, about whatever, they take that and dwell on that, and they look at the correction or note as a negative, and it's not. It is a learning, and you hear this repeatedly. We learn more from our mistakes than we do from what we do right. That's a great one for that, who would say that constantly, Gillian Lynn, the great Dame, the choreographer, and dear friend, God rest her soul, Gillian Lynn. We had a couple of times, I had the occasion, wonderful conversations with her. She was a dear friend who I worked with on Phantom of the Opera. And Gillian and I would talk about the fact, sometimes privately, she would come in and work with the ballerinas and give the ballerinas correction. And she said, I would see them get so deflated if I would come into the room and say, this is the perfect, we aim for perfection, knowing, and this comes from even Vince Lombardi, the great football coach, Hall of Fame football coach, we talk about, we aim for perfection, knowing that we will never achieve it, but we aim for it every single time. That was like Dame Gillian. She was aiming for perfections in the ballerinas. And she would talk about the fact that when she was working with her ballet masters, that when they would give her hard corrections, she felt elated. And the reason she felt elated was because she felt that they thought enough of her and thought enough of her confidence to be able to give her those perfecting notes, that they knew that her ability was there. And she felt if the teacher it was almost as if the teacher didn't say those things to her, like they thought, well, less of her. That wasn't the case at all. She's pushing them, like your teachers, Broadway mentor teachers and beyond. Even your teachers in your classroom are pushing you to achieve the highest, the most that you can possibly do. And I know many of you students know when I've talked about your educations as well, and about trying to achieve and aiming for the highest goals and achieving the highest possible education that you can have as well, how imperative that is. Not only for the course of your life, but also as an artist as well, that you want to have a breadth of experience and a breadth of knowledge. It's all of those things play into what you are as an artist, what you are as a performing artist, and even beyond. And I also talk about the fact that one artistic skill washes the hand of the other. What does that mean? If I paint, if I write, if I play piano besides singing, each one of those skills also plays into artistically what will happen to you and the breadth of your knowledge and the breadth of your experience to get more and more and different kinds of roles. And I encourage you to explore not only different portions of the art, but also even within the art form, when you're singing, dramatic song, comedic song, ingenue song, character song, all of those different kinds of things. And stretch yourselves by doing it. Very, very, very important. Another one, failure to believe in themselves. These are young athletes, but how much does that apply to us young and to artists, both young and old? A failure to just believe in yourself, because the minute you start from a place of failure, thinking failure before anything, you are already eliminating yourself and you're making a judgment call. Not only can you not make a judgment call on yourself, you can't make a judgment call on a character that you're portraying. And what do I mean by that? Let's say if somebody's playing the character of Javert. If I look at Javert in Les Miserables and I say, Javert is a bad guy, and I label him, I have eliminated the layers, the complex layer of who Javert is. You never take a negative connotation to any character that you're playing. What you do is you find the justification of why Javert, in the case of Javert, why Javert does what he does. Well, he's a child who's born in a prison, and so his parents were also negative and of infamy. And so, because he's born in a prison, he says to himself, "I have to raise myself to the highest possible plateau that I can, and that is becoming a police inspector. I will not stop until I've risen to that." And I see things in black and white. It is either good or bad. It is of the law or against the law. That myopic vision from Javert is what ultimately, when he is saved by Jean Valjean at the barricade, when he is let go, and specifically at the barricade, he is a man also of religion, of faith. This man Jean Valjean lets him go. When Jean Valjean lets him go, he is secretly hoping to die at the barricade, because if he dies in a state of grace, he dies a martyr and he goes right to heaven. But because he's been denied this world by a convict, a man who stole a loaf of bread, it turns his world upside down. This man who he thought was a thief has forgiven him and let him go. That's what drives Javert to go and commit suicide. When we look at that kind of layering in character, it enhances and it colors our portrayals in so many different ways. And we as actors, as performers, as singers, you've heard me say this repeatedly, we can't walk through life as civilians anymore. We have to examine all of these different aspects of development of character. And when we have a failure to believe in ourselves, all it does is get in our way. Our concentration needs to be on that kind of layering and exploration of character. Let me continue on. And I'm just going to say some of these ones because there's also a myriad of questions, and I want to get into those as well. Having trouble letting go of negative experiences. What did we talk about before? About being in an audition after the fact, we self-judge ourselves. Oh, I should have done this, I should have done that, and we hold on to it. We can't. We have to let go of that. We have to let go of anybody else's judgment call on us. Because, again, sometimes people will say something, we become offended or whatever. It is nothing more than opinion. And this is something, especially for young artists. And what happens sometimes on Facebook or these chat rooms and things like that, people say things and we interpret it rightly or wrongly as something being said to us. Ultimately, we know who cares about us. We know who is in our corners for us. And we must cling to those kind of friendships that support us as well. Or those friendships, sometimes friendships go in cycles. Relationships go in cycles, and they can come full circle as well. Concentrate on our work. If we're concentrated on our work, that kind of situation, it will not affect us. And to a certain degree in the business, that's an imperative thing to have, because you hear this constantly. The difficulty of the artist, of the performing artist, is we're asked to open ourselves up, expose our emotions, eviscerate ourselves, to use a term. And at the same time, the business is a very difficult business. And I said before, again, actor as athlete, we're running a marathon, not a sprint. So it is a business that is also involves rejection, but we cannot let that rejection get in our way. When we go into an audition, we have to look at the audition as an opportunity to perform. We have to look at that audition, even in classroom, as an opportunity to perform, as an opportunity to learn. And we move from there. Lacking confidence in method or mechanics. This goes right back to what I said, why continued study is so imperative. Because the more we work on it, the more and more confident we will be in our vocal technique, in our placement, working with other teachers. I said this before, working with different teachers in the Broadway Mentors program, taking different seminars. Each one of those experiences helps to build in our confidence. And so that when we go in there, and again, with relaxation, we're not concerned about mechanics. We're not concerned about method. We're concerned in starting from a place of reality and moving from there, because we have worked on good technique. We have worked on relaxation and moving forward from there and trusting our abilities. Worrying, next one right after it. How about this one? Next one, worrying about making mistakes. You can't worry about that. Again, there is no such thing as an accident or a mistake on stage, only the potential for divine inspiration. And if we're in the moment, going moment to moment in our work, it's not about making a mistake. It's about having our receptors open to what is out there and utilizing that and bringing that to life, moment to moment in our auditions. Here's an interesting one. Experiencing nagging injuries. How does that apply to an actor and to a performance artist? Again, we can go step by step with this, and it happens that I become sick. I'm not up for that particular day. We can't, even in the worst of days, we have to go out there and put ourselves out on the line and say, you know what? And it has happened. I know Miss Joy would tell you the same thing. Ask her how many times she went into a performance and how she was feeling a little bit under the weather, or when she was doing Evita, she maybe had a little bit of a cold. You have to go there and you have to reach beyond your own expectations. And here's the last one, experiencing poor pre-game warm-up. That again goes to preparation, all to preparation. If we have good preparation, if we have worked on our techniques, if we have worked on all of these things, we will be prepared. And we will prepared for in pre-game. Again, pre-game is when we're in that audition room, getting ready to go, and not concentrating on anybody else, but making sure we're coming from a place of reality, acknowledging where we are, place of relaxation, giving ourselves the freedom to fall on our face and to explore, and looking for that grand moment as well. It is, and I know we're running, we've literally gone in this block of time in 45 minutes. It's such a short period of time to try and convey all of this information. I'm going to go just very briefly, because I know we've run out of time here. And I've covered a myriad of topics. It's also important why, and I say to you again, it's this kind of thing when you're working with me individually in class. And I encourage, any of you, I've got open slots to please study with me. It is not only working on vocal technique, it's working on the full aspects of what it is and what it takes to be a performer as well. And again, we look at things with our career and our development, and sometimes we don't have patience. We, especially for young performers in this day and age, we see things like American Idol or The Voice, and the goal becomes, I'm going to be a star. I'm going to be a star. But there's all of those missing steps in between. Like I said, it's not running a sprint. I'm trying to build to run a marathon. And in order to run a marathon, yes, it is great to aim for stardom, but I want to have all of my skills in place. And I want to have a myriad of skills in place so that I can utilize them. My education, voices, accents, speaking other languages, any other outside abilities that I have, musical instruments, which is playing an instrument is terrific for voice, as we all know, as well. And having all of those skills ready so that we know, again, Not only are we building a tool chest of emotions, but we are building a tool chest of skill set that we can bring and use as an actor and a performer. Let me just read a couple of these things. Oh, people are asking, oh, and Joy said I could go longer. Let me go a little bit longer, because I do want to address, and thank you, Joy, for saying that as well, because people are saying literally go longer. None of us will mind. I know that you can see this. I'm just saying I'm going to read some of these things. We're talking about stuff people talk about, for instance, confidence, and that all of the stuff I'm getting into. It's not just, oh, I'm going to work. You don't work on your confidence. You work on your skills day to day to build your confidence. And again, getting out of our way because we say, I've got to be perfect. No, you don't. And I say this to you, the best work on stage and the best auditions are messy. It's when they're messy, okay? When we need to worry when it's perfect. Now that sounds crazy, but it's the truth. When it is that the fiber of human beings and the way we walk through life is messy. Things happen. We get tornadoes. We get COVID. It's messy. Things happen. And those tragedies sometimes happen, or those glorious moments happen. The birth of a child, or they happen in life, or winning the big game. It happens. That's what makes life so wonderful too. So, in order to always feel prepared and to feel more in tune to ourselves in that moment, yes. It builds confidence, yes. I'm usually fine in class and shows. It's auditions, the panic, the nerves kick in. This is from Melissa. Just with singing, the longer I have to wait, the worse it is. Now here again, Melissa, and this is obviously for everybody, in the preparedness, in the thinking about it, and even in that waiting process, we must prepare for the worst case scenario. And again, that's literally saying I could be sitting here for an hour before I'd be able to get in there. And what we are doing is, people ask this question as well. This was asked to the great, wonderful actor, Michael Caine. How much do you prepare? How much do you rehearse before you go in for an audition? And Michael Caine said, I prepare the material until I'm absolutely sick of it, and then I do it one more time. That is the same thing like waiting in a rehearsal room. We can go over our material, and instead of saying, oh my God, I'm sitting here, I'm waiting nervous, you sit there and you keep going over your material, you keep going it, you imagine it. Even this is another one, use of imagination, you seeing yourself in the moment, outside of the room, tuning out the other voices. Sometimes we'll see people come in, hey Joe, hey Susie, how nice to see you, all that. Hi, how terrific, how great to see you. You know what, give me a moment, you say. I'm just doing some preparation here. And let's talk after the audition. And I guarantee you that person will say, oh, of course, I didn't mean to disturb you. Fine, hey, let's talk afterward. That's how you handle that situation. What happens, again, from Melissa, she's saying, my breathing will get rapid and shallow, and I'm having trouble with the support when I do finally sing. Again, here's the trick with that, Melissa. That's acknowledging your nerves. If you acknowledge that you have nerves, and that is the place where you are when you begin, don't try and tamp that down. Start from there. I'm not breathing as deeply as I can, and I feel nervous when I'm going into this audition, and I got to be able to hit those high notes. Okay, put that aside, use it, and I dreamed a dream in times gone by, when hope was high and life worth living, or on my own. Or who is this man? What sort of devil is he, to have me caught in a trap and choose to let me go free? They all apply. I can use those nerves. I can use that shortness of breath. Let me also just very briefly talk about just one thing, because it happened. In our material, we have to look for clues. In any character, we look for clues. What does that mean? Well, recently there was a seminar. One of our wonderful teachers, Donna taught a class on chorus line, and such a wonderful class, such a wonderful teacher. And students were coming in and singing the song, Nothing, Donna McKechnie. And Donna, who was in the show and knows the show and was so great, and the advice that she was offering to the students, wonderful. The song Nothing, there's two clues in that number, right? that are, and this is a kind of exploration for layering you have to do. At the end of the song, Morales says, I felt nothing. The truth of the matter is, she feels everything. This is, again, and at some point I'm going to do another session about working against the line, and we'll get into that. You are looking at a situation, she is speaking the opposite of what she's really thinking. She is saying that she felt nothing for Mr. Karp. There's another clue. Why does the author name the teacher Mr. Karp? Why is it the teacher's name Mr. Rosebud or Mr. Happiness? He's Mr. Karp. That's a very particular choice on the part of the authors. And working backwards, again, she wants Mr. Karp's approval. And when Mr. Karp dies, he's gone, and that piece of missing approval was not there. It fuels the number. It fuels what goes into it. Or another number, and again, we're just quickly going to wrap up here. A song like, Oh, What a Beautiful Morning. There's a bright golden haze, the lyrics, the bright golden haze on the meadow, a bright golden haze on the meadow. The corn is as high as an elephant's eye, and it looks like it's climbing clear up to the sky. Oh, what a beautiful morning. Oh, what a beautiful day. I've got a beautiful feeling. Everything's going my way. Oh, what a beautiful day. If we look at that, go, okay, well, should I be connecting directly to the cattle and the grain? But maybe that doesn't strike deeply in me. But if we use substitution and we use our imagination, for instance, if I'm singing that song, and in my mind, with substitution and imagination, I'm just imagining this, it's the last day of my life. Or I want to sing that to somebody that I care about, because I'm not singing about just all of those circumstances, the cattle and the grain and the beautiful sky and all that. I'm singing about what the person that I care about means to me. If I'm singing about somebody else, but I'm singing, there's a bright golden haze on the meadow. And in between that, I'm thinking, you make that meadow golden for me. The corn is as high as an elephant's eye. It is you that makes me see all of these things that are wonderful in nature. If we use that kind of substitution, it fuels our emotion, it fuels our connection, and we want to find those personal connections. Again, it is all of these small fibers that are so imperative to, yes, working in the classroom, making sure that we've got correct placement, that we're in center pitch, all of these things that are so imperative as well. It is the skill set that we're working on. Again, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. That's why continued study and preparedness is important, to not make those kinds of judgment calls on ourselves. Some people are having to leave right now and saying, thank you very much. You're very, very welcome, Ellie, and anybody else who has to leave. We're going to wrap up, like I say, here in a quick time. Again, I thank all of you, because when I'm in a teaching situation, I am learning from you. I am learning from your questions. I am learning from your doubt. And I tell you this, every performer, and I don't care how great they are, I don't care what plateau they have risen to, every performer has doubt. Every single one of them. But we have to learn to put that aside and to develop and build in the characters, to develop and round ourselves with our education. Again, not only in the arts, but our all-around education, and aim for the highest goals as well, because that gives us a platform from which to operate from, that we can operate with confidence and dismiss some of that doubt. So I say to you, I learn again from each and every one of you with your comments and your questions. And it's a great journey for me. And here I am. I'm 65 years old now, and I'm still on my journey. And I'm still running the marathon. That's the idea. That's the idea. And I say for you, all of you as well, whether it be in a professional realm or an amateur realm, doesn't matter. Love of the arts. If you decide to go in a different career, but you still want to continue to study singing, I think it's wonderful. Still study an instrument. It's beautiful. It's beautiful, and it only serves you as well. And again, one artistic hand washes the other. In the same way, one form of business that we do can also wash the other hand. Business can wash artistic. All right, my friends. Again, if you want to sign up and any of you desire to work with me personally, you can find more information on the website, www.broadwaymentorsprogram.com. And again, there's people are just saying, yes, please. There'll be more of these, and we know, if you see already, we discussed, I'm going to do also some additional master classes that will be coming up in future days as well. We're going to study and work on specific shows and recordings. One of them I want to do as well is Phantom of the Opera, and another one is Heathers. I was in Heathers, the musical, some of you may know, off Broadway, and I'm on that album. So, and somebody's saying, yes, Phantom, please. Yes, we are going to do a Phantom one. And, you know, we actually have a couple on the Broadway Mentors roster. There's actually a few performers, wonderful performers, Howard McGillen and Ron Ballmer, who have played, I believe Ron did too, Phantom as well. So who knows? There might be a myriad of Phantom or Les Miserables or other programs and master classes. But there will be definitely I'm going to do a Phantom master class, and also we're going to do a Heathers, which would be fun. And I say to you, all of you, and the parting note here as we close here, again, when you're working on your material, challenge yourself to do something outside of the box. Challenge yourself to do something that you go, geez, I would, you know, they're never going to cast me in that role. Don't tell yourself that. Challenge yourself to play a role and work on a role to stretch yourself to do something, whether it is, I mostly do dramatic, make yourself do comedy. I mostly do comedy, make yourself do dramatic. You know, and work on those other skill sets, especially in the classroom with the teachers that you have at Broadway Mentors. It's a great platform for you to expand and grow. All right, my friends and my students, and I say fellow students because I am a student as well. I thank you so much for attending. I thank you so much for your questions. And what a pleasure this has been. What a wonderful morning this has been. Okay, everybody, take care of yourselves. And hopefully I will be speaking to all of you soon. All right. God bless. We'll see you.